Alrighty, everybody. It is Jack Mack with High Top Sports. We got a good one for you today. I am with JT Seekerman, our Tennessee insider. We're going to cover the big SEC games of the weekend. We got a few of them. Uh, Biggest college football slate of the season with the most good games. So we got a lot to cover. First off, JT, how are you feeling after had a tough week last week? But what's the overall thoughts just leaving Arkansas?
Ready to bounce back. We definitely let one slip away there. 14-3 lead late in the game. Want to trust your defense there after how well they've been playing all year, and I think we kind of put it on them at the end when we maybe should have stepped on the gas and put it away there late. But uh, you know, weird weekend in college sports overall last week. College football was quite the roller coaster ride last week. So fun weekend this weekend. A lot of people have been looking forward to. You got a wedding today, don't be surprised to be looking out and see people all on their phones, head down. There's a lot of games on between the times of 3:30 and 10 o'clock tonight. So a lot of action today, a lot of excitement.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not a good apple picking weekend, that's for sure. So yeah, got some big games, bounce back for Tennessee. I agree. I mean, it's going to be one of those seasons where one loss isn't going to kill you, obviously, with 12 teams. So it's all about rebound. That's the theme of the year for everybody. So first big game that we're going to talk about here is Texas, number one team, Texas taking on Oklahoma in a rivalry game, Red River shootout. I don't know if we can still say that, but it's going to be Saturday afternoon, 3:30. First time they meet as SEC rivals. This game is always weird, right? No matter what happens, I explained with Shelton, the Georgia Alabama, it's a one-game season. No matter what happens the game before, it's always going to be close when these two teams play. So the spread right now is 2 touchdowns, I believe. Last time I saw 14 points for Texas. So JT, let's kick it off with you with your first, I guess, initial thoughts going into this Red River rivalry.
Yeah, I think you said it best, man. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen in these games. I think it's a really big game in terms of what we're going to see. Quinn Ewers' first game back starting after everybody's been riding the Arch Manning train for the last few weeks. Played really well. So it's going to be interesting to see if Quinn Ewers starts to struggle in this game and Oklahoma's hanging around. Do those Texas fans get a little restless? And is there a call for Arch to come in the game and give us something else? We've seen it before in this game. Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams back in the day. Caleb Williams bringing Oklahoma all the way back there at the end. It'd be interesting to see if we see something like that here. And then for Brent Venables, I think this is a huge game. I think his team really has to show up. He can't let this game be a blowout. I think he's gotta at least keep this game close and see if at worst can they cover the spread of this 14 and a half point spread. So I think those are the two big storylines in this one. And we'll see how it kind of plays out here today.
Absolutely. The quarterbacks is a big one. I mean, Ewers has been out the last couple weeks with, was it the wrist, right? That's what he's been out with. I always thought, okay, maybe they're just trying to get Arch Manning some run here because of all the publicity, just get him some games so he doesn't get unhappy. But it sounds like he was. We talked before the show. Ewers was actually hurt, so him being back, see if he comes back full go. Because you're right, there's going to be a short leash, especially with how good Arch Manning played over these last couple of weeks. So with Venables, you're right. There, I mean, he hasn't done terrible since he got to Oklahoma, but he hasn't done anything great. Like he seems like he's lost every big game. He wins the two lanes of the world. He'll win all those games, but he needs a big win. And we're going to kind of get into that with some of these other coaches. This is a big game for lots of coaches with one loss because Brett Venables is the main one that I can think of that a new guy. He needs to make his mark with this new SEC. Everyone's kind of talking about Texas coming into the conference. Oklahoma has been a little bit overlooked, I would say,
Hmm.
this year. I mean, they did lose to Tennessee, got embarrassed, manhandled at the line of scrimmage. That could be part of it, but Venables needs to bounce back and just kind of flip the narrative, I believe. So um, one other thing that you mentioned is the quarterbacks. So Oklahoma quarterback situation. Do you know? Is it going to be Jackson Arnold, Hawkins.
I would imagine it's going to be Hawkins. I think after that Tennessee game, I think Jackson Arnold kind of lost his spot there, and I think Hawkins is a little bit more dynamic. You get the legs there. I think he can make more plays off script in a game like this where you're 14 and a half point underdogs. Off script plays is what you need. I mean, go back and look back in the day with Johnny Football against those Alabama teams. They won those games off of purely off script plays. Him just kind of ad libbing it and making plays with his legs. So I think that's one thing that Oklahoma is really going to have to do today. I think Hawkins is going to have to make some plays with his legs, and I think that defense is going to have to step up, which, from what I understand, is Oklahoma's strong suit here. So I think the big thing is that they got to get stops, and like I said, he's going to have to start to make plays with his legs and make those off-script plays today.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that is the X factor in this game is Hawkins. I mean, his ability to run the football, that Tennessee game flipped on its head when he came in. So those kind of, like you're saying, off script scramble plays, getting 5, 6 yards instead of getting sacked is going to be big in a game like this. Hawkins is a true redshirt freshman. Is that right?
Yeah, true
Yeah.
freshman. Yep.
That's going to be tough. I mean, it's good he got experience with Tennessee at home at night, so he's been in a big environment. I like that he had that experience before this. But if he is the guy, I mean, need to settle him down early. Hopefully, they can get the running game going. Obviously, as a Georgia fan, I'm hoping for this to be a knockdown, drag out fight, 4 quarters, double overtime. Texas can get all of this out of their system before we come to Austin next week. But let's get into bets here. I think we're thinking along similar lines with this game. 2 touchdowns for me is a ton of points. I mean, I love Oklahoma in this spot. Maybe not to win, but to keep it close. Um, in a defensive battle, this game's going to be, like I said, it's a one-game season. I expect these two teams to play close. It's always a wild game, maybe some crazy turnovers going Oklahoma's way to keep it close. But I love Oklahoma inside the number plus 14. What about you?
No, I agree. I agree. I think that 14 and a half number is the number today for that game. Um, I think if you're Oklahoma, and I think what Brent Venables is going to want to do is they're going to have to try and slow this game down and make it a low-scoring dogfight of a game. I think that's kind of the strategy you got to play here, especially if Texas begins to click on offense and yours is clicking. You got to find a way to slow the game down and keep the ball out of his hands. So I think that 14 and a half point number, that's what I'm kind of leaning to. It looks like most of the public kind of agrees with us here. 68% of the cash and 62% of the tickets on Oklahoma as well today. So they seem to be the popular pick today. So riding with the public, we'll see how it goes. But like I said, I think, like you said, actually, I think that 14 and a half point number is a lot. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I'm debating here. We're going to have a segment at the end, so stay tuned of our lock of the week. That's teetering on could be a lock for me, but we shall see. So the next game here is another big one. Ole Miss, LSU. This is big for multiple reasons here. I mean, two teams with one loss. Now with the 12-team playoff, you have a more of a mulligan with these losses. But this game is kind of similar to the Red River rivalry. I cannot say that correctly, where it's always a crazy game, 42-41. I think last year it was in the 50s with Jaden Daniels, but two one-loss teams, it's almost a loser go home type scenario, in my opinion. I mean, the loser of this game has to play LSU, has to play Alabama. Ole Miss, they have to play Alabama and Georgia. So there's a lot of pressure on this game. I know we're still early in the season, but it's hard for me to see a route for the loser of this game getting to the playoff. So unless chaos happens, I know some um, pundits I was listening to this week, JT, I don't know if you've heard it, mentioned in 2007, just how crazy that year was. And, the team that won the national championship, LSU, had 2 losses. So maybe we're in store for another season like that where everyone's losing. Number one team's got 1, 2 losses. But either way, you need to win this game. And with the two coaches, Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin, especially with Kiffin, with the Florida rumors. I think those kick up tremendously if he loses this game. Uh, but first thoughts for me is, like I said, it's a pressure pack game. You don't want to go to two losses. JT, what's your initial thoughts here?
I think so as well. I think when I first saw this game and saw that 62.5 point spread, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Points in this game, just like last year. I think it's going to be a fun, shootout type of game. One thing that at least sticks out to me is Brian Kelly in big games. We all know how that goes here with LSU and Brian Kelly. I think I heard a quote at the beginning of the year. He costed two teams a win in that first week. If he would have been coaching Notre Dame, Texas A&M would have won. And then, of course, with LSU losing to USC that first week. So, Brian Kelly in big games, that's always a big theme here. I think for me at least, this game is interesting with the spread, with LSU being the 3.5 point home dog. I think that's an interesting line to me here. I kind of thought uh, Miss Ole Miss would be a little bit more of a favorite in this one. So, like you said, I think this is a big game in terms of it's a must-win, can't lose, however you want to put it. Because after this, it's not getting any easier for either of these teams, especially with Ole Miss having to play Alabama and Georgia. And it's crazy. This first, I mean, I guess it started last week with the parity in college football we're seeing. It's been pretty awesome so far. I think it's kind of everybody is kind of in the same spot here. You got to win. You can't lose any more games if you got that one loss. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Texas today. If they go down, that kind of changes everything. Everybody's back on an even playing field here. So, yeah, I think must win, can't lose, and I think there'll be a lot of sparks in this game. So it should be an exciting football game.
Absolutely. You're right about that. I mean, Louisiana, Baton Rouge at night, that place is going to be a zoo. Um,
100%.
for sure. So, I mean, with that, I was just looking at the spread here. Looks like it's 3 points to Ole Miss. So, home dogs here for LSU. I mean, it's hard for me to bet against LSU at home at night. I mean, I do give the edge, kind of what you're saying, Brian Kelly. I give the coaching edge to Lane Kiffin in a game like this. I trust him more, but I trust that crowd and that atmosphere more than any of those things. So
Mhm.
I, I like LSU. Maybe even sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I was just checking. What's this total? 62 and a half.
62 and a half. That's a lot of points.
That's a ton. I know me and you talked before the season about the unders, and it kind of helped us in the beginning of the season. But can you explain that a little bit more? Just they're stopping the clocks more, and they're not letting it run until they yeah. Explain that a little more. You explain it better than me.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, from what I've understood and what I've read about, these new rules where they aren't stopping the clock after the first down anymore. I think it's taking the officials a little bit of time to adjust to that and getting that ball set. So they've been taking their time, and the play clock winds down, and the game clock starts to wind down, and you're losing a lot of possessions. I think in
Yeah,
that very first game of the year, Georgia Tech and Florida State had 7 possessions, each on each side, which is not a lot in college football. So, yeah, we've been trying to ride the unders a lot this year, and I think even in this position with 62 and a half, I think this game, you know, while I say there's going to be sparks, you never know in a game like this. It could easily turn into a dogfight, and we're sitting there, and it's you know 17-20 in the fourth quarter, and it's a battle there at the end. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the refs have started to adjust here recently. I still think the games are a lot slower and a lot tighter than they used to be. You don't see as many high scoring games this as you've seen before this year. But yeah, I think it's
mhm,
definitely taken an effect on these over unders, and I think Vegas has kind of struggled to adjust to that.
absolutely. And I've struggled to adjust with it. I mean, looking at this number in the history of these games, that's an auto over. But you're right. I mean, things have been a little bit different this year. Sometimes I watched a Georgia Southern game. It was 17-17 in the beginning of the second quarter, and they never scored again. So it's just, yeah, there's a little bit weird rhythm with the scoring these days, and maybe some of this officials and the way they're stopping the clock this year it's playing a bigger part than they expected. But moving on to bets in this game, like I said, it's hard for me to go against LSU at home. Uh, while I do trust Lane Kiffin more than Brian Kelly, I trust the home team. I mean, Ole Miss won the last matchup last year in that crazy game. I think there was 52-48, something crazy like that. I expect, and they won that game, in my opinion, because of home field. So I expect LSU to kind of come back here at night and win this game. Maybe even muck it up. Harold Perkins getting some pressure in the backfield there. I expect this game to be 35-27. So LSU win. What do you think there, JT?
Yeah, I like LSU as well. That 3.5 point dog number right there, hungry dog runs faster here. So I think the value's on that number as well. I think, just like you said, with the um, essential circumstances of night game in Death Valley, that crowd is going to be rocking, especially after last year's game. Uh, there's a ton of value on LSU in this game, and I like the under in this game. I think this game is going to come down to time of possession. Um, I think when you go back and look at Ole Miss's loss to Kentucky, Kentucky dominated them in time of possession. I think LSU was, somewhere around 13, 14 minutes time of possession, couldn't get anything going. And I think Kentucky was about a 30 something minutes. And I think that needs to be LSU's game plan here. And I think if that's the case, this game will go way under because, LSU or Ole Miss can score quick. LSU can as well. But I think for LSU to win this game, they got to make sure that that Ole Miss offense is not clicking on any terms today.
Absolutely. I agree. And last thing I'll mention on this game is if this game is at 12 o'clock, I think I go Ole Miss. Like that's how much I think that this home, like these teams to me are exactly even. I mean, the quarterbacks, you got Dart and Nussmeier. I mean, they're very similar players. They both have high potent offenses. I put everything on where this game is and the time. I mean, like I said, 12 o'clock, I may go Ole Miss. So just a weird game, but I think maybe even sprinkle JT for the listeners out there a teaser, maybe an under an LSU home dog teaser if you guys have that. Um,
Yep.
I like that a lot.
Yep.
So last game here and getting close to home here for old JT. I didn't even mention in the beginning of the show. He used to play football at Tennessee a couple of years ago. You got the end of Heupel's days, right?
I did. Yeah. I was there Heupel's first year with the team. So three
Yeah,
with Pruitt and then one with Heupel.
got it. Got it. Well, we're definitely going to get into that differences in another show. But for now, we're going to get into Florida and Tennessee. JT, you take it away with the game time spread and all that.
Yeah, game time for this one, 7 o'clock. Spread is Tennessee minus 14 and a half. Interesting number there. And then over under 57. I think finally Tennessee gets a SEC game at home here. Neyland is going to be absolutely rocking. I think that place is going to be bonkers tonight. Especially in a bounce back spot here. I think Tennessee has to come out with a different mentality. I think they've been leaning on their defense for most of these last two SEC games. It's been the defense that's dominated, and rightfully so. They've dominated in the trenches. They've dominated Oklahoma, and then for most of that game there against Arkansas, they dominated until the end. So I can't blame Heupel for wanting to take that route to trust the defense and let them kind of control the game. But I think in this game, especially with Florida and the bad blood there and the struggles we've kind of had with them, I think you got to come out and put your foot on the gas and show people that how good this offense is. I think Nico's going to want to bounce back after his blunder there towards the end of the game. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Freshman, big environment, tough spot to be in there at the end. But I think the biggest storyline here is Tennessee's got to come out and show what that offense can do it, and Heupel's got to unleash it here.
Absolutely. And, Georgia and Tennessee has kind of been opposite. Like Tennessee has started games extremely fast. I mean, what against I know it was like Chattanooga, but it was like 50-0 at halftime. So
Mhm.
the Georgia, on the other hand, can't start fast and only starts playing in the second half. So I look for Tennessee. I think Heupel has learned from kind of taking his foot off the gas there with Arkansas. I expect them to start fast, but more importantly, I expect them to finish fast. And Shelton, when he listens to this, is not going to like it, but I think Tennessee rolls in this game. This could be, um, I, I think this could be a die game. I don't want to say do or die because I think Tennessee's going to win for Billy Napier. I think if Tennessee wins this game by a ton and a blowout, I think Napier's gone. But maybe before next game. So this is a huge game, and then other teams with two other teams with one loss. Or I'm sorry, Florida's got more than one loss, but big game for Tennessee on that front. So I think they're going to feel the pressure more than Florida and really put it on them. Like I said, the main difference here is I don't think Heupel's taking his foot off the gas at all going forward. I mean, you got to take a page out of Lane Kiffin's book. I mean, when he's up 50-0, he's like, all right, we got to make it 90. I mean, you got to think like that, especially with the playoff. You got to have some style points, but yeah, I expect them to score early and often, and that home field environment here is going to play a big role. I mean, if they're up 14-0, I do not see Florida being able to, you know, get in the nitty gritty and coming back in an environment like that. But
Yeah, I think this is a statement game for Tennessee. I think they need to come out, make a statement, especially against a weak Florida team. Like I said, we've always struggled against Florida. It doesn't matter how good we've been. Florida's always been that thorn in our side. So for Tennessee fans, this game's personal, and I think we need to make the scoreboard make it look that way.
I agree. Is what do you think about Napier? I mean, do you think I thought he would be gone? I just do not see a way that he makes it through the season. I just don't. They got Georgia in a couple weeks. There's a lot of embarrassing moments that could happen, and I think will happen with Billy Napier. So I don't think he's going to make it through the year. Uh, but getting into bets here, I think this is Tennessee minus 14 all day long. That home field environment, even 14 is my pick, but if you can find a good first half, I like Tennessee first half as well. They've been a great first half team, so I expect them to punch them in the mouth quick, especially with how that game against Arkansas ended. So Tennessee first half, Tennessee game, I like that. JT, what's your bet? I think I have an idea of what it might be.
Yeah, to your point, I think with Napier, I mean, if he gets blown out in this game, I think that might be the nail in the coffin for him. I think he's got to like keep this close. I think it's very similar to Venable's situation. I don't think Venables is in as much trouble as Billy Napier is with this one. Florida's got a gauntlet of a schedule, so it's going to be a rough ride over these next few weeks. I think so. So there's a lot of pressure on him with this game. Spread wise, I woke up and saw 14 and a half, and I was kind of like, I'm not too sure about it, but the more I think about it, and after watching Florida this year, 14 and a half does feel like it's the number to me. I actually like the under in this game a lot. Vegas has been setting these Tennessee overs at 60, 63, 57 today. It's like 58, and they really haven't hit it. Like they really haven't come close. So, I think if Heupel continues to want to stick with if they get out to early league and he wants to let the defense have it, then this game's gonna soar under. And so, I think that's my pick today in this game. If you really want to take something, is take the under, and hopefully it's kind of a slower game towards the end.
Yeah. And, I didn't even think about that. I mean, I guess for sure. I mean, Oklahoma, Arkansas, those games went way under. Um, it's weird that the odds makers are not seeing what we're seeing with this Tennessee defense. Like Tennessee can score at times, they've shown, but the other teams have not scored consistently. So I like that under a lot, actually. Especially, I know I keep going back to that, but it's college football. It means so much. Home field environment in Neyland, like you're saying, there's history with Florida, Tennessee. Tennessee fans hate losing to Florida. Likewise with Florida. So I think it's going to be, they're going to play with a different type of grit. So I like that under as well. So leading into our last segment here, and maybe touching on the other big game of Oregon, Ohio State, we're going to get into our bet lock section. Lock her up. Not to be confused with anything Georgia's doing over the last couple weeks. But this is for locks and bets. So first and foremost, I wanted to touch on Oregon, Ohio State, because that's where my lock is going to be. I don't see how Oregon keeps this close in any way, shape, or form. I know they're playing at home, but Ohio State, if you look at their roster, and I said this before the season, they got the best roster in the country by far. I mean, better than Georgia, better than Alabama. Judkins, Trayvon Henderson. The only thing that's not elite is their quarterback, Will Howard. I still have questions about him. But Jeremiah Smith, their running game, their defense is elite, top three defense. And I mean, they've looked good so far this year, but they haven't looked what I thought they were going to look like. I thought we are going to be seeing 60-0, things like that. Like even Michigan State. I mean, that game, it took a while for them to pull away. I expect this to be the week that Ohio State puts it all together. I mean, Dan Lanning, former Georgia pupil, will be there, and you can expect a hard-fought defense. But the talent gap here is just too wide, I think, for Ohio State. I think Ohio State is going to win this in a rout. 41-20 is my guess on that. And my locker up segment, Ohio State -3. What you
Nice.
got?
I'll touch on this one a little bit. I'm interested to see, for Ohio State, this is kind of their first battle test, I guess if you want to put it that way. Going into Eugene, Autzen Stadium is going to be rocking. That place, I don't think people give it the credit it deserves as far as environment goes. Ohio State's used to this massive stadium at the Shoe. It's always packed out, rocking, but Autzen gets pretty crazy. And, I think game day is there today. That place is going to be buzzing. Oregon +3, that's an interesting line to me. It looks like most of the public's on Ohio State, but I think it's going to be an awesome game. Obviously, Oregon's got a 9-year quarterback playing, so that could kind of help in some circumstances. But no, I think this game, for me at least, when I saw it, I was kind of stuck in between there. I'm just like the LSU game. Environment 7:30. It's going to be quite the game. So I think another game where you could see a lot of sparks fly and a lot of excitement, and hopefully a close game there towards the end. But for my locker up, I said this to you earlier in the week. It was just kind of a gut reaction. USC, Penn State in Southern California. Oh man, I think this game is it's an interesting game to me. Penn State's defense has looked awesome all year. I don't think the offense has been great. I think this is for the first time. Obviously, Penn State going out to Southern California, long flight. James Franklin's complaining about the State College airport and how they got to drive an hour and a half to get to the airport and all this. And it just kind of started off bad for them this week as far as the feeling of it. And USC's coming off a tough loss to Minnesota, obviously. I think this is another bounce back spot for a team that I feel like everybody thought was going to be really good to start the year. Come out, beat LSU, put together a great game. Miller Moss looked amazing. Went up to Michigan. I think they battled hard. I think to go in there with a physical Michigan team and put up a fight was pretty impressive, something that you don't really expect out of those USC teams. And when I look at the spread and saw USC, I think it was +5 earlier in the week. It's worked its way down to 3.5. But still, I think this is another situation where you think hungry dog runs faster. I think USC's got to be desperate here. So I think they got to put together a game. And I think USC is going to come out, and I'm going to take USC +3.5. And if you want, sprinkle a little on the money line at +150. I really think USC is in a spot to win this game. And, a lot of people, it seems the public likes Penn State, 85% of the cash and 80% of the tickets on Penn State today. So we're going to fade the public. We're going to take USC +3.5, and then we're going to sprinkle a little on the money line for this 3:30 game in Southern California.
I like it. And obviously Penn State, one of the biggest schools, biggest alumni. I feel like the spread's always in their favor. Like Vegas, the line's always going to kind of favor them in some ways just because of all their crazy old fans. Not to speak badly about my grandparents. I got some family Penn State fans, but I agree with what you're saying.
You got a lot of Penn State family over there.
I do. And Ohio State, as you can see, I'm speaking pretty nicely about them for the most part. But I agree with this Penn State take. I mean, they haven't been tested at all this year. They have a good defense, but again, they haven't really played a good offense, they're not going to go against anybody like Miller Moss and this USC off, passing attack. So I agree. I like the sprinkle on the money line. It's a long flight. Penn State to USC. USC is going to be pissed off after that loss against Minnesota. They've kind of gotten acquainted with this Big Ten style of football. Maybe not the best way that they wanted to with losses to Michigan and Minnesota, but they've been in those games. And why I really love this bet from you is they could have rolled over in that Michigan game for sure. Like they were down in that game. I thought they were not going to make it close at all, but they fought back and they hung in there in the trenches with Michigan. So I think those experiences are going to be perfect for them. I mean, and they played LSU. You're right. So I mean, they've had lots of tests. They are battle tested, these Trojans. So I like that. I'm going to sprinkle that as well. This USC money line. I expect this to be low scoring as well. I don't think you mentioned over under, but I think this will be a um, like kind of similar to that Michigan USC, a score like that, maybe both in the 20s, late teens. But I like that. So just to recap here for me and JT, our locks. JT has got the USC Trojans spread and sprinkle the money line. I am going to take the Ohio State with that talented roster to go, walk into Eugene. I think they win by 2-3 scores. For our games this week, we're in agreement. We think Tennessee puts them away early. We like LSU at home. Man, just going through this slate, JT, the games are unbelievable. I mean, this is the best college football weekend I can remember in a long time. I'm very excited. But
Have the have the have the Octobox ready to go. You're gonna be
oh,
looking all over the place today, trying to find a game to watch.
got to get screens. Yeah, the theme of the day for us fans is screens. Got to get more screens.
You got YouTube TV. You got 4 games going on at all times today. That's how it's gonna have to work.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it seems like our theme here for us is home teams, and I like that. I mean, these home teams in the rivalry games, I think they take care of business for the most part. And for my Georgia Bulldogs, we hope Oklahoma gives them hell this afternoon.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We need Texas to get a loss today. Let's even the playing field here. Let's see. Ohio State, Oregon. That one of them's gonna go down. So there'll be one undefeated team left after today. Hopefully.
yeah, I think so too. I
Hopefully.
mean, we had chaos last week, but it's gonna look
Keep it
100%
rolling.
different. It's gonna do a 180 this Monday. The rankings, the AP poll.
More
So
chaos. More
absolutely,
chaos.
it's gonna be a good one. That'll be it for me and JT. This is High Top Sports Georgia, and we will see you next week. Go Dogs, and
Go Vols, baby. Let's go.
all righty, have a good one, boys.
See ya.